We have repeatedly talked about the tremendous support Ukraine has received from the Kazakh people. The majority of Kazakhs have condemned Moscow's aggression. We've shown plenty of footage of Kazakhs tearing Z symbols off cars and putting Russian fascists in their place.
You spit on the ground.
I was walking and one of yours spat right at my feet. Not one of ours.
You don't like Russians.
We don't like Russians. What did we ever do to you?
We built this city for you.
When you say things like, we built this city for you, or without us you'd still be living in yurts, you automatically put yourself above Kazakhs as if you're looking down on us. We built this city for you, so you should be grateful. This, my friends, is real Nazism and chauvinism.
Unfortunately, the official authorities of Kazakhstan are going against the sentiments of the majority of their citizens. Astana not only maintains friendly relations with the Mad Swamps, but also strengthens its alliance with the occupiers. Yes, until recently, Tokayev managed to pretend that he lived on another planet, and ignores the largest war in Europe since World War II. He turned a blind eye to the bloodbath orchestrated by Putin and continued to be friends with the Bald One. Moreover, Kazakhstan has helped and continues to help Russia circumvent sanctions.
We know that Kazakhstan is actually helping Russia evade many sanctions, to circumvent sanctions, so to speak. Of course, for its own benefit, undoubtedly, but nevertheless, all of this is happening. Since
the start of the full-scale war, Kazakhstan has unexpectedly become a major exporter to Russia of phones, bearings, aircraft parts, rare metals, advanced electronics, radio equipment, and turbines. Who would have thought that Kazakhstan managed to learn how to produce all of this in just a couple of months? Produce it.
The most insidious thing is that it often operates subtly, gradually, and without immediate detection, making its true nature and potential impact difficult to perceive until it has become deeply entrenched and significantly more challenging to address effectively.
At least half of these products are dual-use goods or even directly intended for military purposes. The electronics that Kazakhstan supplies to Moscow, bypassing sanctions, are used in missiles and drones that bomb Ukrainian cities. So Astana's hands are already dirty.
As Bloomberg writes, our country, along with Turkey and the Emirates, could be an intermediary in the supply of microchips. Experts have noted that over the course of a year of war in Ukraine, Kazakhstan sold Russia microchips and semiconductors worth $3.7 million. Bloomberg draws the following conclusion. This is probably what is known as parallel imports.
Nevertheless, Tokayev tried to sit on two chairs at once. To support the ghoul Putin and not fall out with the civilized world. That's why he did not openly support Russia's aggression and even stated that he would never recognize the occupied territories.
We do not recognize Taiwan, nor Kosovo, nor South Abkhazia, nor South Ossetia, nor Abkhazia. And apparently this fundamental principle will be consistently applied to all quasi-state territories, which in our considered view unequivocally include the regions of Luhansk and Donetsk, both of which are currently experiencing significant geopolitical complexities and ongoing challenges.
But recently, the authorities of Kazakhstan finally took off their masks and showed which team they really play for. After another successful strike by Ukrainian drones on Novorossiysk, Kazakhstan condemned Kyiv. Astana called on Ukraine to stop attacks on the Black Sea terminal of the Caspian Pipeline Consortium. You see, this complicates oil exports, and the Kazakhs are among the shareholders of this consortium.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan lodged a protest in connection with the new attack on CPC infrastructure in the waters of the port of Novorossiysk, as this is already the third such incident. Therefore, the reaction of the Foreign Ministry was tough. The attack was described as an action damaging bilateral relations, and Kazakhstan demanded that Ukraine take measures to prevent such incidents. The official representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Aybek Smadyarov, stated that what happened is already the third act of aggression against an exclusively civilian facility.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan has effectively called the drone attacks on this terminal a war crime because, quote, it is an exclusively civilian facility protected by the norms of international law, end of quote. Specifically for our comrades in Astana, let us clarify. According to the Geneva Convention, oil infrastructure is an absolutely legitimate target, especially that which is located next to a naval base. In other words, it is obviously supplying the army at war. No one is going to check exactly how much fuel this consortium did or did not supply to the occupiers because it's already clear to everyone. In this situation, we simply, well, that's it. Our authority here is over, that's all. But what is definitely not a legitimate target is an apartment building in Ternopil. Electrical substations and thermal power plants, civilians in Bucha, Irpin and Izium, residential buildings in Mariupol, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Pokrovsk, the children's hospital in Kyiv, and thousands more homes and civilian facilities all across Ukraine. But for 4 years, the authorities of Kazakhstan have not once opened their mouths to condemn real war crimes and crimes against humanity. For 4 years, they played the three wise monkeys, with their ears, eyes, and mouths shut. And now suddenly, after a few hits on an oil pipeline, they are outraged by an egregious act of terrorism. And
What the hell?
after this, every self-respecting citizen of Kazakhstan should be burning with shame. Their government does not condemn the killing of children, but raised a fuss over a pipeline. No further comment is necessary.
We have conveyed our concerns to the Ukrainian side. They are aware of this. Well, you know yourself that there have been corresponding attacks, including drone strikes, on this infrastructure. Here, I think, in principle, the situation is clear.
The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, of course, responded to Kazakhstan's inadequate reaction and reminded that a day before the strike on Novorossiysk, Russia had carried out a massive missile and drone attack against Ukraine, resulting in civilian deaths and injuries. At least 500,000 residents of Kyiv and more than 100,000 residents of the Kyiv region were left without electricity. And this was something the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan failed to notice. Or they deliberately do not consider it something that deserves condemnation. They
Have no brains.
All this barbarism is happening against the backdrop of an unprecedented rapprochement between Kazakhstan and Russia. In November, Putin was received with honors in Astana, where he and Tokayev signed a declaration on elevating interstate relations to the level of comprehensive strategic partnership and alliance. While Russia is razing Ukrainian cities to the ground, Kazakhstan is signing an alliance treaty with it. Well, first of all, Astana de jure becomes an accomplice to the war. The question is, why do Kazakhs need this? And secondly, by not recognizing Russia as the aggressor and on the contrary encouraging it, Kazakhstan is essentially giving its consent to an attack on itself. Apparently, Kazakh officials have forgotten that Russian fascists openly call Kazakhstan the next target after Ukraine. And these are not just the outbursts of a few fringe individuals. This is party policy.
There are some deep yearnings about northern Kazakhstan, where they are actively getting rid of Russian names and replacing them with Kazakh ones. September 30th is the day of reunification of the new regions with Russia. With anticipation, I think this day will be celebrated not only in what remains of Ukraine, but in some other places as well. You understand the list isn't finished yet. Yes, of course. This is a revision of the results of 1991, no matter what you call it.
Let us remind the esteemed Kazakh authorities that Moscow does not recognize Kazakhstan's right to exist and never has. The former German consul general in St. Petersburg recounted that already in 1994, when he was still an aide to the mayor, Vladimir Putin expressed territorial claims against Kazakhstan. In his opinion, northern Kazakhstan, just like Crimea, should belong to Russia.
Now, look at how Kazakhstan came to be. In fact, at first it was called the Kazakh SSR as part of the RSFSR. That is, there were no Kazakhs at all.
Does anyone really believe that the pale moth has changed its mind? On the contrary, Russian propaganda has become more hostile toward Kazakhs and is systematically and deliberately creating an image of them as the enemy.
Listen, let's pay attention to the fact that the next problem is Kazakhstan. Because the same, Nazi processes that are happening now in Ukraine could also start there.
And we have borders there.
And there are a lot of Russians there. And there are a lot of territories there, It's the longest border. And Semipalatinsk is there too. And by the way, and the nuclear fuel for our entire Rosatom is also there.
By supporting Russia, Kazakhstan is supporting its own future, an attack on itself. If the occupiers manage to win and legitimize their conquests, Kazakhstan will be next. Most likely after a bloody war with Ukraine, Moscow will not dare to attack NATO countries right away. But Kazakhstan becomes a very convenient target, one that has opened its doors to the aggressor and approved its aggressive policy.
A resident of Karaganda complains to her chatroulette companion that Kazakhs, like Ukrainians, have become Nazis. They start speaking Kazakh to me. Now Russia will give them a beating, and the Kazakhs, they're cowards, they'll even settle for a zoo.
The people of Kazakhstan need to make a clear choice. Are they on the side of civilization or barbarism? The very existence of Kazakhstan depends on the answer to this question.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.
The recent visit of Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev to Moscow has become the focus of media attention. It is notable because this was the Kazakh leader's first state visit to the Russian capital. Previous trips had only official or working status. As the media reports, Tokayev did not meet with the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin by chance after his visit to Washington. It is noted that in this way, he demonstrated to the Kremlin's master the previous friendly ties. In addition, the president of Kazakhstan may have conveyed some messages from the American leader Donald Trump to Moscow. In particular, Kazakhstani media paid attention to the details of Tokayev's trip. It is noted that his plane was escorted by Su-35 fighter jets all the way to Moscow. And during the motorcade, there were flags of Kazakhstan and Russia along the entire route, as well as huge banners welcoming Tokayev. At the same time, during his meeting with the Russian dictator, Tokayev was rather reserved. The reason for this could have been the information attacks by Russian media related to the outcome of Tokayev's meeting with US President Donald Trump. On the eve of his visit to Moscow, pro-Kremlin media published negative statements about Tokayev. This was due to the agreement signed allowing American companies to develop tungsten deposits in Kazakhstan, as well as Tokayev's positive assessment of Trump's activities. Despite this, following the negotiations in Moscow on November 12th, a declaration was signed to elevate the relationship between Kazakhstan and Russia to the level of comprehensive strategic partnership and alliance to support the high pace of political contacts at all levels, and for Russia to fully fulfill its commitments regarding the construction of the first nuclear power plant in Kazakhstan and the development of cooperation at Baikonur. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev also maintains friendly relations with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping. During his visit to Beijing in September of this year, he stated that China is a reliable neighbor destined by fate. According to him, Kazakhstan and China have built strong and dynamic business relations.